Hello there and welcome back to the AgostinhoZinga show, episode number 673. This is episode number 673 with your host AgostinhoZinga, and I hope you're doing well wherever this podcast may find you. I hope you are doing swimmingly, chillingly, and all of that malarkey. How am I? You know how it is. All things are good over on my side of the planet. All things are good over on my side of the planet. We are now what? 5 days, I think, since I last podded, and so many things have happened since that last event has taken place. As most of you would be aware if you keep in touch with the local community, the fight of all fights, the supreme of all battles, took place over the weekend, featuring WingsOfRedemption and Boogie 29888, and it ended exactly like a lot of people predicted it would. It ended exactly how some people predicted it would. As you can see here, taken from this video, or taken from this screen here that I'm showing you regarding the flipping fight. Many people across YouTube have covered it, so I don't really want to go over it again and again and again. But as you can guess, Wings was victorious with a second round stoppage. He actually did manage to stop Boogie in the first round. It actually happened in the second round, which was a bit surprising considering Boogie didn't throw a single punch in the entire fight. But I have to admit, it was quite nice and charming to see these two guys in the ring. Two people who the entire internet kind of, takes turns to dunk on, laugh at, and to kind of point at as horrible examples of human beings, both physically, mentally, and psychologically in all ways and purposes, turned up and decided to put on a bit of a show for the fans, and you cannot fault that. But I have to admit, the histrionics and the kind of people going overboard with the praise towards Boogie and Wings is a little bit nauseating. It kind of shows you just how little you have to do nowadays to elicit some level of reaction or positive response from people. Doing the bare minimum, just getting out of bed, just being able to move your feet, one foot in front of the other, and just by turning up and embarrassing yourself in the ring, you somehow get praise. People look at you and think, you know what, let's give this guy praise, and ignore every single instance of horrible, manipulative, downright fraud level scammy stuff that they've done in the past. And let's just wipe that all away, because guess what, they turned up to a fight where they got paid some of their biggest paychecks they could have ever got paid in their entire lives. And let's not make no mistake, these two guys would have never ended up in the ring if they weren't getting paid in the first place. And I even kind of said in a few streams that I think they were underpaid. I think the 10k that they were allegedly paid as a base rate from what's his name, Keemstar's fighting promotion, Happy Punch, I think was grossly undervalued their value to the overall fight card, because I'm sure they brought a decent amount of viewerships to watch it. Yes, I know it was a prelims, yes, I know it was free on YouTube, but they did a pretty good job in terms of stirring up some promotion, stirring up some hype for the fight card, and getting it over the line, especially for the prelims, which no one usually watches. They did a decent job of that. But just their notoriety alone online, and the fact that they would be able to spurn so many reactions from people online, I think they deserved far more, personally, far more than the 10k they allegedly got for fighting this fight. But again, it goes to show that when you're in a desperate situation, you probably don't got much place to kind of negotiate and to kind of come from, so you kind of have to just take what you have to take, and it kind of is what it is. But I am pleased that they did turn up in some way, shape or form. But let's not go over the top, let's not go make things kind of, weird, whatever, and let's just make sure that we kind of just treat these guys exactly as they want to be treated, because they've got a catalog of flipping history showing really, really bad behavior over the years. So there's no point of ignoring that just because they turn up to a fight they were getting paid for. Let's relax a little bit with the flipping overhype. But legitimately one of the funniest fights I've seen. Two guys who probably don't belong in the ring fighting essentially. I thought Wings looked quite decent considering. Obviously Boogie was absolutely hopeless. Seeing him get punched in the face was quite satisfying, I'm not gonna lie. The instances where his shorts came down, Boogie's was wearing a pair of shorts, I guess, that didn't fit, and they kept coming down, and then he had to get them taped up. I thought that was pretty swaggy, because that kind of showed in a weird way that Boogie did lose a lot of weight. his shorts were so baggy that they basically, from all the weight he lost, that they had to tape them up in order to stay up. I thought that was pretty a cool little thing to kind of show that he did actually was doing something, right along the way to kind of get himself in good shape. But overall, let's relax and let's take it chill. It wasn't that deep. It kind of is what it is. Those guys are back doing what they're going to be doing best, and it'll only take a couple of weeks of goodwill, and then everyone will be reminded just how much a piece of shit these guys are, and then all the goodwill will disappear. We'll go right back to scheduled broadcasting. But I'm not going to have this kind of, oh, let's forgive everything and make it seem like nothing else happened before. Let's just chill out with that one. And I want to move into this quickly as well. This is regarding Martha Stewart, being being one of the oldest people featured on flipping Sports Illustrated. And a part of me wants to say, Martha, you're 81 years old, Lev. Like, go look after your grandchildren, go bake some cookies or some shit or whatever it may be. Cover up, please. No one wants to see this. But there's also a part of me that's also encouraged by this a little bit. There's a weird proliferation and normalization of cosmetic surgery in culture overall. It's getting very concerning. I just recently saw this clip of this woman. I think she's from Bad Girls Club. I think she's from there. This girl who's clearly obese. She has no business getting any cosmetic surgery. The first thing she needs to do is put down a burger or a couple of donuts and switch them to salads. She shouldn't be getting under the knife in any way, shape or form. And this girl from Bad Girls Club is going under the knife, and she was getting a flipping BBL. She was getting a BBL, right? This girl that was bigger than Lizzo was getting a BBL, and she was getting it in some shoddy place. She wasn't going, I don't think she was getting any, no, she wasn't going under. I forgot what that term is called in medical science, whatever it may be. And it was horrendous. So that's been normalized. For some reason, people think it's completely okay for somebody that's incredibly obese to go on the knife and get a BBL. Really and truly, it's kind of it's kind of God punishing you in a weird way. If you're that obese and you don't have a bum naturally anyway, part of the reason why you should get a little bit chubby is so that some of the weight goes to your tits and to your bum. If it doesn't go anywhere along there, it's kind of, your bad luck. But really and truly, you shouldn't be focusing on getting any sort of plumping done to your boobies and your bum when you're struggling to keep your weight down. But that is what's happening. So if that's the case, I'm okay to see that. Like, I like contrast. I like to have the opposites. So if we're okay with advocating for BBLs with obese people who need to hit the treadmill, then it should be fine for women who are geriatrics and, in their flipping, literally, on the last ends of their life at 81 years old to be gallivanting around on Sports Illustrated, showing the little flipping tatas out and whatever, and the granny VJJ. We should be okay with that, right? We should be okay with that, because there was a point in time where the internet decided to sexualize Martha Stewart anyway, and was trying to act as if her and Snoop Dogg were fucking on the slide. So if that's the case, then you guys should be okay with this. You can't be grossed out Martha Stewart if you were advocating for fucking Snoop Dogg for fucking her. If you thought Snoop Dogg and her were linking up on the slide, then you have to be okay with this. But personally, I think she should put on some clothes. I think she should go and behave herself, and your time is over. And when your time is over, time is over. This to me is equivalent to me standing in the rave somewhere with some kids who are all under 25 and trying to connect with them and trying to make some friends. This is the exact same thing. When I'm in these nightclubs and I'm trying to vibe, I'm trying to dance, I'm trying to have a good time, I'm trying to keep up with these youngsters, and then it hits up in 1 a.m. I'm getting a bit cold. I want to get my jacket from the cloakroom and shit, right? Or whatever it may be. This is exactly this is the exact same representation of it. Sometimes you just have to say the party's over, and this is a good example of it. You had your time. There's pictures of Martha Stewart when she's young. Actually, let me actually get it up here, because she was an absolute dime piece, right? Let's not get that twisted. Martha Stewart was absolutely smoking when she was younger, but she had her time. She looked absolutely amazing for the majority of her life. She still looks great now. I just think at some points you just have to let it go. You really have to let it go and just be able to live a life as an older person and be okay with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever, personally. But maybe it's just me. But I'm looking at this picture now of her, right? Look at her. Look at what she looks like back in the day. This lady was absolute smoke show. I don't see why somebody that had this type of run is worried about flipping showing out for the youngsters now. Just let it go, but mama, let it go. It's all well and good. You had an amazing run. Look how good she looked here. Look at these Vogue pictures of Martha Stewart. Like, looking absolutely pangers. I think it's okay to just leave that as it is and keep it moving. But I don't think any of us, myself included, especially being a fan of the lady, wants to see her looking this way. I'm sorry, but I don't want to see this. I just don't. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think it's necessary. And I'm completely disgusted in every way, shape, or form. Please, Martha Stewart, let it go. I beg of you. But I am also happy that she's 81 and doing it. So I'm gonna sit on the fence of this. So I'm gonna do a bit of a Boogie and kind of sit on the fence and keep it moving when it comes to that. But big up her. Next, quickly want to mention this regarding the ex-Marine who's been charged with the choking to death of Jordan Neely. I think everybody has kind of spoken about this, right? In terms of how flipping heinous this was, and there's been a lot of conversation around it. Was the guy racist? Was he not? Bloody blah blah blah. At the top, at the flipping the kind of really sad conclusion of this is that both of these people were victims to the victims of their circumstances in a weird way, and it also kind of speaks to the overall, I think, degradation of society. Because there was a time, remember, keep this in mind, there was a time when some of you fuckers out there were saying abolish the police. You remember that time when people were saying to abolish the police? Now see what's happening in San Fran. Now see what's happening in parts of New York. Look what's happening. When you talk about abolishing the police and you start making the police the boogeyman, you start making them as fucking, you know, guys that are jumping into people's windows and killing them in their sleep. When you start making all police officers to be corrupt crooks and heinous at their jobs, and you want to, you know, reform the entire thing and have flipping, or I don't know, street wardens parading the streets and stuff. When you start doing that, when you're not criminalizing crime, when people aren't actually going to jail for doing mad shit, right? When people aren't going, like, on both sides, when police officers who are killing civilians aren't being adequately punished for it, and when civilians aren't adequately being punished for their crimes, this is what you get. You get people taking things into their own hands. People thinking they can, you know, lay down the law. They can be some sort of vigilante, whatever it may be. And this is what ends up happening. People end up dying. And this guy, from what I saw in the video, ended up holding the choke way too long. If you know anything about grappling, if you know anything about jiu-jitsu, whatever it may be, there is a point in time where if you hold the choke for too long and you prevent blood from circulating up to somebody's brain, you could essentially kill them. That's an exact fact. Everybody knows that, which is why the term of tapping and all that is actually existed, and why that's implemented as sort of martial arts or self-defense. But he didn't. He stayed on the guy, and, you know, the dude ended up flipping passing away in the train. Now, of course, there's circumstances around that. The guy may have been may have been a drug addict. He had these issues. He had a long criminal history. We know all this, but I think in general, both of these people have suffered because of the stupid rhetoric going on at the moment, where people, instead of addressing and trying to figure out ways to improve the police that's there, instead of figuring out ways to maybe improve and educate people in terms of how to deal with things and issues and conflict resolution, in terms of maybe advocating and pushing their local, you know, officials to improve living conditions, to improve the employment, to improve flipping, you know, safety and welfare for people that might have mental health issues. What ends up happening is this: you end up having people being flipping not prosecuted for crimes. You end up people that are not being treated adequately for their mental health. You end up people having, you know, struggling financially to get by, and then they end up having this weird thing where they kind of cross paths. And think about it in terms of optics. Like, how weird is it that this guy happened to cross paths with a black dude in New York that was busking, or, you know, allegedly busking and going crazy in a train? This blonde white dude, former Marine, ends up crossing paths with a black guy in New York, you know, trying to make $1 or harassing people on a train, however you want to spin it. It's really weird, man. It's really flipping weird. I'm not saying people, this is what I'm saying. I think Matt Guerrero is saying this. AZ acting like police don't kill people every day. I'm not saying police don't kill people. I'm just saying the issue that we have at the moment is that even in the UK, we have the same issue. We don't have a judicial system, or we don't have sentencing that's adequate. That's kind of a deterrent. We have some people getting away with stuff and some people not getting away with stuff. You have police officers who are genuinely corrupt, who have genuinely murdered people, getting away with manslaughter, still getting their pension, still going back to the police force, being suspended. All of these things are happening in real time. So it's no surprise that some people would get frustrated and pissed off and want to take the law into their own hands. We have civilians, we have people in society doing the most heinous crimes, pedophile, kiddie diddling, or whatever it is, and they're not getting adequately punished. At the end of the day, something's got to give, and this is it. This is what it's got to give. This is it. and it's really, really sad. It's really, really cruel. I feel for everybody involved. I really flipping do. And I can't imagine what that Jordan Neely's family are going through. Can you imagine what they're going through, having to see a family member of yours flipping dying in real time on the flipping train like that, so alone in that pitiful flipping circumstances, rat infested trains with everybody kind of cheering on or whatever it may be, like just horrible. And then all this discourse around the whole thing in flipping social media, it must be flipping so tragic to kind of deal with. This is the guy walking out of the courtroom now, or the police station, sorry. Absolutely crazy, man. So yeah, RIP Jordan Nelly, RIP all the victims, you know, have to suffer off the hands of, you know, people's weird fascination with creating these quasi utopian societies, but not actually kind of following through the ideas in their head as to what actually that would require. Really, really, really heinous, man. Honestly, I feel so bad for everybody involved in that situation, but mostly for the victims. So RIP Jordan Nelly in that regard, and I hope some form of justice is done. I don't know what kind of justice, you know, can kind of make things better in that circumstance, but I hope something is done, because that was absolutely disgusting to watch. I'm not gonna lie, absolutely disgusting. Talking about absolutely disgusting and talking about things that absolutely piss me off, we have to and need to address and talk about this issue regarding Tom Sachs. Unfortunately, the great and the illustrious Tom Sachs got himself in a bit of a oopsie doopsie. You know, I guess in this era, or the world we live in at the moment, on this type of society we're in at the moment, you have to be a quasi semi perfect person. If you have any flaws to you, if you have any sort of deviations from the norm, you're instantly going to get called out. Even more so in the workplace, where people have this idea that the workplace is meant to be an extension of your home. It's meant to be in itself some sort of quasi utopia where everything is fair and everything is nice, and you get on and there's bean bags and people giving you chocolates and shit, and you have drinks on Friday and pizzas on Thursday and blah 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 blah. Well, the reality of life isn't that. And we know the fact that in most industries, especially when it comes to the arts, especially when it comes to design, those cutthroat industries, or those industries essentially where they lionize and put on a pulpit the designers and the flipping main people involved with these brands and whatnot, it's no surprise that some of these people, whether they're male or female, become a bit megalomaniacs, become a bit psychopathic. And it's not surprising that their workplace, you know, workplace behaviors aren't essentially up to scratch with what's going on nowadays in society. It's not that surprising. So when all the stories started coming out about Tom Sachs' studio and the abuse alleged, and the fact that he was a bit of a tyrant and he would turn up to meetings in these boxes and stuff and demand a certain level of dedication from people, it wasn't too surprising. Too surprising to me. But the real bummer for me, as a fan of Tom Sachs and a fan of the shoes and a fan of the studio and just a fan of his overall, was that I was waiting with bated breath. I was waiting with bated bloody breath for the Mars Yard 3.0. I had the Mars Yard 1.0 and I wore them into the ground. They had flipping holes in them. It looked like they stunk. I was wearing them in the gym. I wore them to raves. I had a flipping amazing times with the original Mars Yards, and I would say, like I've always said immensely on this pod before, the Mars Yards out of any other sneaker I've ever had in my entire life, these shoes were the one shoes that I got the most compliments from regular normies on the street. Regular normies on the street would stop me all the time and say, "Oh my God, where did you get those? Where did you get those?" And to me, as a sneakerhead, that's the best validation. Not from other sneakerheads who are whacking off on flipping pictures of Nike Air Max 1s, who have tattoos of swooshes on their arms and shit, who flipping always want the new one, who flipping love everything that fucking Nike do, who love every single Jordan, who love every single New Balance. No, those guys are boring, right? They have no taste. They just follow the hype. Everything that's new and shiny they buy just because it's new and shiny. But when a regular normie person in the supermarket, down the street, in the barbershop says, "Hey, I like your shoes," that is legitimately the best validation ever. And this was the only validation that I got when I wore these flipping Mars Yards. And it was only it was only flipping rumored recently that this particular model here, which may have been the 2.5, it may have been the 3.0, we don't really know yet, but this was the model that was being wear tested by a few people out there. It was essentially like the Mars Yard 2.0 with a rubberized toe and some reinforcements on the eyelets and some different material on the toe box and the side paneling to help it to be water resistant. There was rumors this model was going to come out again. And then as soon as the rumors came out, Nike said, nope, we're not bringing them out because it's workplace harassment. And then it felt like the apologies tour run was going to start because Tom Sachs needed to kind of save and kind of, save whatever relationship he had with Nike. But I think, considering what's going on now in society, they're just going to wipe their hands clean with him. And because of that, the reason why I think that is because of this recent update regarding Tom Sachs. And he posted actually on the Tom Sachs official account via their stories, I might add, which is another really sneaky thing that people do all the time. When you're not really sorry, instead of putting the apology in the notes app on your feed, you put it in your stories so that it's not there later on, right? and you don't get, no one can say that, oh, you deleted it after the fact. It's just completely gone. So he decided to upload a handwritten apology, which is hilarious in my opinion, because the handwritten apology is written in the same font that he writes in general, like that same design font that he has, right? The Tom Sachs Design Studio font. And it's written in a way that makes you believe he's not really sorry. And I'm with him. I stand with Tom Sachs in not being sorry. I stand with Tom Sachs in the having permission to throw a couple of pans and pots at your flipping design students or design assistants if they're not kerning properly, if they haven't lined up the rulers accurately enough. I am really for it. If the chamfer on the fucking, prototype of what you've been working on isn't done to the correct angle, I stand with him. I stand with his ability to do so, because these days in these design studios, some of these design assistants don't be design assistanting. They be wasting too much time on Instagram feed, on Discovery, doing fucking research instead of actually drafting up prototypes, going to buy more MDF, right, and actually getting to fucking work. That's what they should be doing. So I don't see any point in it. But if you're looking at it from a point of view of like, oh, he needs to apologize and own up to his mistake, let's make one thing for certain. When you go and you upload a flipping handwritten apology in the font that you usually do all your designs in, and you post on Instagram stories, you are definitely not sorry. Let's just say that. Anyway, let's read the apology, courtesy of Tom Sachs. It says, update. These past few months have been at a time of overdue reflection. It's been painful but vital. You know what this kind of reminds me of? This motherfucker writes like Ian Connor. Do you know Ian Connor, right? The stylist guy. He's got this way of writing. I don't know if he's like dyslexic. I don't know if he's just redacted, but he writes so bizarre. Like the grammar's all over the place. It's all uppercases and shit. It's just strange. I don't know if it's like him talking in slang, or if it's him just not giving a fuck about the English language is like kind of cool, but he kind of sounds like Ian Connor. Like you don't really know where shit's going, but you're gonna try and kind of parse it together, right? Let's just continue anyway. Man writes like how Philippine Floyd Mayweather spells, right? Anyway, let's continue. It says, I deeply regret that anyone if ever felt less than supported, safe and fulfilled within my studio, but it's clear that some people did. So some of you motherfuckers felt sad and felt unsupported because you're sad and unsupported, but some of you didn't, so leave me alone. I get it. As our business grew at a rapid pace and cultural norms progressed, we did not take the necessary time or professionalize our operations. I wish I had prioritized this decade ago. I am laser focused on it now. So essentially he's saying, it's your fault. It's society's fault for changing, not for me being a tyrant. I am not fucking Kim Jong-un in this design studio. It's your fault for you guys being too redacted and too lily-livered and too p-worded not to be able to kind of withstand my pressures that I put on these design people. It's actually society's fault. That's what he's basically saying. He's not saying it's anything that he done wrong. It's society's fault. Society needs to kind of fix up, suck it up, and be okay with him and his wife sending their flipping design students off to Erewhon to buy a particular fucking green smoothie for their fucking dog. That's what he's basically saying. It continues. But to be clear, over my 30-year career, this is essentially the career version of like I have black friends, right? But to be clear, over my 30-year career, I have never harassed anyone or tried to make anyone feel uncomfortable. I love that, right? That refusal to take any accountability. You may say I made you feel uncomfortable, but it's all in your head. I did nothing wrong. You may say I harassed you. No, I did not harass you. You harassed yourself by by complaining. Basically, you played yourself. That's what he's saying. I'm committed to building a studio culture that better aligns with the values that I explore and develop as an artist. My art and personal / professional growth is my main focus. Signed 5th of the 10th, 2023. Tom Sachs, NYC. You know what's absolutely funny about this whole entire thing? What did they expect him to do, though? I'm just thinking about it now. Why did he even write this apology letter? I would have told people to I would have told everyone to fuck off. You want me to fire myself from my own studio? Is that what you want me to do? You want me to fire myself from my own studio? I'm never going to do that. I don't care what you think about my workplace practices, about my working conditions. I am never firing myself from my own studio. Never happening. Especially when you think about, the fact that those shoes, I think, in my opinion, belong in the Sneaker Hall of Fame, right? Those original Nike Craft Mars yards are belonging in the Sneaker Hall of Fame. If you're a smart sportswear brand CEO, you're going to be looking at Tom Sachs with the corner of your eye. You're going to be watching his movements, and you're going to say to yourself, you know what? If Balenciaga can bounce back from essentially having kiddie porn in their flipping campaigns, right? If they can bounce back from that, then Tom Sachs can bounce back from throwing a couple of fucking rulers at flipping staff, a couple of rubbers, a couple of Sharpies. He can bounce back from that, right? He can bounce back from turning up to his fucking Zoom meeting in some boxer briefs. If Balenciaga could legitimately get away with advocating and pushing fucking CP. Let's be real here. Let's be real. And I'm also never firing myself from my own studio. I don't care what you accuse me of. It's never happening. So it's actually quite funny that he got pressured into making a statement, because who's he trying to convince? No one really believes him, right? We all know he probably runs a bit of a flipping labor camp over there in his studio, right? It's essentially legalized design slavery, but because of the rep you're gonna get, you just take it on the chin. It's all like working for Vogue and some shit as an intern, right? You don't work for Vogue as an intern and go handing and getting coffees and logging in fucking horrendous Michael Kors sample pieces and shit because you're a fan. You do it because of the clout. You do it because of what that's going to do to your CV. You take the abuse because you know what it could do for you further down the line. But in this day society, we live in this world where people are so mollycoddled. They feel like they need to be indulged in certain things, and you have to kind of look after their feelings and la-di-da-da-da. It wouldn't surprise me if nowadays, if it's basically, I think it is actually, it must be basically illegal to do internships with no money. And I did many of them. I did many design internships, fashion internships, where all you got paid was your travel fare. Sometimes you wouldn't even get your travel fare. Sometimes you'd ask the person that's looking after you, maybe the head of the studio, maybe the design assistant, you'd ask them for your, the money you need to buy your travel card with, and they'd ask you for a receipt. No, sorry, they'd ask you to prove how much you paid for it, or a receipt, obviously, to expense it. Sometimes they wouldn't believe you. Oh no, this is not real. Or they try and wrangle around it and say, no, why don't you take this train and that train? Imagine proper designer studio, proper design brands that are not willing to give you, I don't know, $50 for the fucking travel fare. And that was when I was interning and stuff. So I'm sure nowadays it's unconstitutional. You could probably go to prison if you don't give an intern some lunch, or you don't give them a fucking travel card or some shit. These people have it too good. But honestly, for me personally, I am really, really distraught and really upset about this. I can't say this any clearer than I've already said this. Like I said, I think those original Mars yards were legitimately some of the best shoes ever in the history of shoes, and the fact that we're never going to get these shoes again just because a couple of people in the studio couldn't hack some gentle design studio ribbing, couldn't handle not knowing if they're going to get a pan, a rubber, a pad thrown at them every single day, couldn't handle the uncertainty of working for a person who may or may not be a tyrant. Like, I think that's just really strange personally. I think some people just need to suck it up and realize what industry they're working in. But unfortunately, it's over. It's 100% over. But LOL at Tom Sachs for writing that handwritten note and thinking it was going to do anything, because it clearly didn't, and everybody's kind of over it because it kind of is what it is. Next on the list as well, this has been an unfortunate day, actually. A really, really unfortunate day for the rapper known as slowthai. any of you guys who are fans of his, I am. I think he actually puts together some pretty decent albums. I'm also a fan of his live performances. He's one of the rare UK rap acts who actually doesn't perform with a backing track, so that always goes in my book. And he seems to be somebody that's kind of lived a somewhat interesting life, right? You can imagine him getting on it and becoming a little bit, a little bit funky and off stage as well, right? He lives a full life. But one of the things that I kind of noticed about slowthai is that as he was ascending in his stardom, I started to notice a few self-sabotagey, risque behaviors that I sometimes know, or that I'm all too familiar with. I was thinking to myself, oh, slowthai is moving a bit mad. Slowthai's moving a bit mad because he's doing some things I'm looking at and thinking, Slowthai, you need to chill out. You need to actually slow down and relax because your star's ascending, and there's going to come a point where you're going to be too famous to do the things that you're doing, and it's going to bite you in the bum. And one of the first instances that I realized slowthai was maybe moving a little bit crazy was when he got into that weird situation with that comedian Catherine Ryan. I'm not too sure if you guys remember. It was during the NME Awards, and he was super drunk, super fucked up. He may have been high, who knows? And he was on the stage on the NME Awards, and Catherine Ryan, a very popular UK comedian here and a host and whatnot, presenter, was on stage presenting some award or whatnot, and he was essentially, sexually harassing her on live TV. Basically, right? He was all up in her grill, smelling her neck, trying to kiss her and shit. And this woman's fucking married, right? Like with kids and shit. So it's not even like some funky woman on the scene and shit. This woman is like, settled down and whatnot. And he was doing loads of madnesses and everybody was really uncomfortable about it. But Catherine Ryan, definitely somebody who's, you'd maybe think has performed in really dodgy comedy clubs doing stand-up and open mics. Maybe he's got a bunch of brothers, or just as a boss, and she handled it like a fucking pro. And after the fact as well, I was super surprised that she didn't go down the route of like saying that she got abused and that she felt traumatized and she felt unsafe and stuff. She essentially forgave him. She legitimately forgave him. She was like, yeah, I'm fine. It's okay. I accept you. I think Slowthai made a public apology on Twitter and something. She retweeted and said, it's okay. Shit happens when you're young and stuff. Live, shine free, whatever. And I saw that moment. I thought to myself, you know what, Slowthai, if this happens to you, you have to take this as a warning that whatever lifestyle you're living, whatever you're doing out of, off stage, you need to slow down, or you need to kind of make it somehow manageable. That's what I thought his first warning shot was when I saw this incident. Again, maybe it's not too much and people don't really think anything of it, and I'm just kind of making a big deal out of nothing. But I legitimately remember this and thought to myself, oh, this is really, really, really weird. Look, see, someone's even got a video here titled Slowthai harasses Catherine Ryan. So that's my first instance. Well, things got considerably worse for him. Now look at this. Headline courtesy of The Guardian. Rapper Slowthai appears in court charged with rape. Honestly, man, the funnel from like harassing somebody on stage to being accused of rape is fucking crazy, isn't it? That is just way. That's like that meme of like the SpongeBob, isn't it? 5 minutes later, and then fucking hell, mate. Now he's been accused of rape and he's going to court for it. Like, ouch, mamma mia. So Tyrone Frampton faces 2 counts of rape in Oxford and is bailed to appear before the Crown Court next month. If I'm not mistaken, isn't he going out with that blonde singer? What's her name? Isn't Slowthai going out with that blonde singer? What's her fucking name? I think she does like judo. She's like blonde. She's from the UK. I forgot her name. Her music is terrible, but I'm pretty sure he was dating her for a while. Maybe it's not. Anyway, let's continue. It says Slowthai, the chart-topping rapper who received nominations for Grammy Award and a Mercury Prize, has appeared in court on 2 charges of rape. The 28-year-old appeared before Oxfordshire Magistrates Court via video link on Tuesday, charged with oral and vaginal penetration of a woman without her consent. God almighty, those are words no man wants to see next to their name. No man wants to see this next to their name. Oral and vaginal penetration woman without her consent. Fucking hell. He spoke only to confirm his real name, Tyrone Frampton, and date of birth and address in Northampton. The prosecution lawyer, Adam Yar Khan, told the magistrates that the charge of rape was an indictable only offence and the case must be heard by the Crown Court. Frampton was bailed to appear in Oxford Crown Court next month. Slowthai was nominated for the Best Dance Music Record in the Grammy Awards in 2021. I didn't know that. Oh shit. The second album, Tyrone, reached #1 in the UK charts that year. His first album, Nothing Great But About Great Britain, was nominated for a Mercury Prize in 2019 and reached to top 10. Slowthai's stage name combines references to his slow speech in childhood and a homonym of his abbreviation of his first name. So, essentially, this man has to pray that this is one of those kind of, mistaken identity, false accusation type of things, and prove it without a shadow of a doubt. Because even if he doesn't, even if he's able to prove without a shadow of a doubt, this is a weird kind of stink to have over your name. And considering his previous actions and maybe his reputation in the industry, because I'm assuming somebody like this maybe has a reputation that kind of, precedes them. So I'm sure there are other people who are probably going to come out and say, yeah, this guy behind the scenes is a bit of a wild lad. He did this, he did that. That's the main issue he's having now with this situation. I'm hoping it's not as bad as it kind of looks, but it looks kind of bad. I'm not going to lie. It's looking fucking crazy for slowthai. And again, like I said, I just hoped as a fan, I really did hope that this occasion that he had, this flipping really horrible, cringy, uncomfortable situation that he had with flipping Catherine Ryan at the Enemy Awards that time, I really did hope he would have understood, hey, I need to relax. And the fact that the woman gave him grace, big up Catherine Ryan for giving that guy grace, because she could have really leaned into it and, exploited it for as much as she needed, because legitimately he was harassing her on stage, like live in front of a fucking audience, which is fucking crazy. And she didn't. He should have got that grace and moved accordingly. The fact that he doubled down on the rapey, the fact that he doubled down on the creepy is legitimately concerning. Like, that's the most concerning part about it. And again, no one's saying just because you try and sniff a presenter's neck and try and kiss her and shit on stage that you are, applicable to, committing rape. But the optics aren't good. And nowadays, in the court of public opinion, optics have everything. So the optics of you doing this with Catherine Ryan and then being accused of the R word, it's looking a bit peaky out there for you, my brother. It's looking a bit peaky out there for you, my brother. So it kind of is what it is. What a shame. Some of the people you look at and you think, oh, you're a big fan of, they get accused of these kind of things. It kind of stains the music a little bit. But I guess it is what it is. We live in a rapey world, innit? We live in a rapey world. Women cover your vaginas in your mouths, mate. There's guys around out there raping, doing some madnesses. Moving on from that one. Moving on. Let's quickly talk about this, because this is a bit of a madness, and this is a flipping long article. Actually, no, let's not do this one. Let's just do this one. Actually, let's go here. Let's say this. So let's move on to this one. This is regarding the great and the powerful, and the sensational and the amazing, formerly known as Kanye West. So it's looking like nowadays in society, as long as you are somewhat of a linchpin, somewhat irreplaceable, right? Linchpin and irreplaceable, you can essentially get away with absolutely anything. And this is the perfect example of it. Big up Ye, big up Ye. So, as most of you are aware, Adidas CEO has just announced that he will continue selling $600 million dollars worth of Yeezy inventory that are sitting on, and plan to donate a portion of the profits to charity. Per the agreement, they have to pay Ye 15% of the gross sales. So after all that hoopla, after all that crying and commotion, after all of that, anti-Semitism talk, and he is putting people in danger and blah blah blah, at the end of it, Kanye West is not enough of an anti-Semite for them not to just burn the products in a symbolic gesture. They're still willing to be in business with him and collect the monies, pay them out to their board members or shareholders, whatever it may be, and then give him the royalties. This says everything about today's society. Like, if you are good enough, if your work is good enough, they will always come back around, which essentially means you can get away with just about anything, really and truly. He suffered, in terms of optics again. He suffered maybe slightly in terms of celebrity friends and all that malarkey and clout. Those things people care about a lot. Yo, big up Hyde F10. Yo, big up High Def 10. Thank you for the $5 super chat. What part of Manchester am I from? The same part of Manchester where your mum's from, brother. That's the same part, okay? The same part of Manchester where your mum's from. Yeah, how dare you question my flipping loyalty to the great Man United, eh? How dare you? But thank you for the $5 super chat, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Uh, Honestly, people keep bullying me about this whole thing for a while, but I don't care. I'm not going to get bullied on the internet about my affiliation to Man United. What do you want me to do? Support fucking Arsenal? Is that what you want me to do? You want me to be like every other fucking stereotypical black person in the fucking London and support Arsenal and Chelsea? Is that what you want me to do? And then you start calling me flipping names. Nignog this, nignog that. No, 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 no. I'm going to buck the trend. No racial, term intended there, and I'm gonna go and support fucking Man United. But big up you anyway. Big up you, High Def. Appreciate the fucking super chat. Big up, big up, big up. Anyway, moving on. So this is amazing and cool, honestly. I always felt like the reaction against CA and what his comments, what he said during that whole entire anti-Semitism flipping promo run, right? That anti-Jewish flipping, album drop release date thing that he was doing. I always felt the reaction to it was a bit OTT, especially for Adidas. I feel like if all his celebrity entertainment people, friends wanted to distance themselves from him, fair enough, because essentially all the agents in flipping the entertainment industry over there are from some sort of Jewish heritage and whatnot, and production companies. I understand if it feels bad for business for people in the industry to kind of put distance between him and them, right? I understand that. I think Ye will be smart enough to understand their position also. I thought the corporations were a bit dumb because, if anything, because of how much value he brings to Adidas and their bottom line, right? We heard from the very beginning he was contributing up to like 1%, 5%. This was from like a new line for a heritage, well-known, established sportswear brand. That said everything about how poorly Adidas performs and how great Yeezy was doing. So I felt for Adidas to go out of their way to completely end the entire deal, cut all communication, and really make a stand and put statements out, I thought they were doing a bit too much. But if we're being fair to Adidas too, it was a reflection on just how unlikable Ye was at that time. And you can just imagine how many people behind the scenes he legitimately pissed off and that honestly didn't like him and wanted to essentially stick it to him for how poorly and how horribly he must have treated him throughout the entire time relationship of Adidas. So I completely understood that, but I thought it was a little bit short-sighted and eventually it would come to bite him in the ass, because when he does sign for another big company out there and revive that brand, they're going to be ruining the day that they let go of him. But I still think it's encouraging news that we're essentially going to get some Adidas's back again from Yeezy. The only disappointing thing for me, being a fan of the shoes, is the fact that the desert boots that I wanted aren't on the list. So allegedly, according to this Ye centric stan account on Twitter called Kanye Streams One, this is the alleged unreleased Yeezy stock that's due to come out over the next, I guess, a year or plus. So you've got mostly slides, you've got a pair of Adidas Yeezy 1050s, which are the ones that he wore when he was doing the release of Donda, when he was wearing all red, those type of shoes, if you remember them. They've got a couple of foam runners. We've got a pair of Yeezy foam runner V2s. Those are the versions that people kind of allege Adidas for stealing. We've got a couple Yeezy 350 V1s. We've got another V2. We've got another V2. We've got a Yeezy Boost 350 V2 CMPT. Yeezy 500s, which are probably the weakest ones. We've got some boots here, not the ones I wanted though. We've got these boots, the Yeezy 500 highs. And then the ones I actually want, the ones I'm really excited about, are these, the Yeezy Boost 950 Pirate Blacks. And these, I think, were around the same time that Ye probably had the best style wise in terms of what he used to rock with the bomber jackets and those boots. So if I can, let's see if I can get them up here. Yeezy 950s. Those are, I think, my favorite version when you used to wear these. And these are kind of, essentially, they kind of look like duck boots. They've kind of got like the duck boot type of silhouette to them, as you can see. Actually, let me get this off the screen there, but you can kind of see them here. They sort of got like a duck boot type of silhouette on them. So I think those were definitely some of my favorites that he ever made. But the ones I was actually looking forward to purchasing were the Yeezy desert boots, which I never had a chance to kind of cop. I can probably end up getting them on flipping eBay and stuff after the fact, but these are an extremely underrated model, I feel like, in the whole catalog of Yeezy boots, and they're super versatile. They can be worn really easily and look really good with shorts and obviously with some pants and shit, bloody blah blah blah. And I was hoping that these were the ones that were going to be released also, but it's looking like we're only going to get the ones that I flipping mentioned, which are over here. So these are the ones we're getting so far, but so far so good. I still think these are going to sell out like flipping hotcakes. I'm actually liking the look of these 500 highs here with the soles. They look pretty interesting, but you know these are going to go crazy. People are going to go absolutely crazy for the pirate black Yeezy 350s. Yeezy slides always do incredibly well. The markup on them is just insanely crazy, especially considering these colors haven't come out officially ever yet. So the fact that people are going to be able to get legit pairs instead of buying fake ones are going to be happy about that. I'm sure these Yeezy 1050 high reses are going to do incredibly well also because of the iconic picture of Ye doing that Donda performance wearing all red. Let me see if I can get up on here as well. Kanye West Donda, Donda red outfit. Let's see if I put that. It should come up here. We should see it. Let me see if I pull it up. Yep, there you go. So that was a red outfit that he wore those shoes in. So I'm sure those are gonna go absolutely stupid hard when they eventually do come out. People are gonna be all over them. I do maybe anticipate he may actually decide to put out that red Gap jacket on his own also, because I don't think that actually did come out. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I don't think the red Gap jacket actually come out. I think it was just the black and another color, but not actually the red jacket. So that might be an actually interesting thing to see happen in real time. But yeah, Yeezy is back. We're gonna see them back out there again. All that posturing, all that moral grandstanding, all of that get him out there paying cancel culture nonsense is over. If you're talented enough, that's what basically it shows. That's what the message should be to all people. Instead of worrying about like, you know, clout, instead of worrying about networking, just become really good at what you do. If you become really good at what you do, you become really undeniable. You become an incredible linchpin to a company, to an institution, to a corporation, to a brand. Sometimes the rules will not apply to you. Sometimes the rules will not apply to you, and sometimes the rules can be bent to your favor because of how much you contribute to the overall bottom line. That is what we're getting here from Ye, because I think if anybody else in society, in culture, would have said what Ye did, it's over for you. It's a wrap. It's a complete wrap. But the fact that Ye is who he is, he's able to get away with it. He's able to kind of get away with it scot-free, and he's able to kind of maneuver, got himself a new wifey, dresses up looking like a bit of a tramp. They're gallivanting around. He's wearing shin pads outside like he's fighting, but he doesn't fight and shit. Living life, you know, sitting on really uncomfortable chairs, putting out new shoes. It's all good. Life is absolutely amazing. So big up Ye. I can't wait for those shoes to drop. I cannot wait for those shoes to drop. Next, got to mention this as well. This is breaking news, actually. Breaking news, courtesy of WWD magazine. Unfortunately for me, and somebody has been a proponent and a real champion of pushing and promoting, you know, and uplifting streetwear voices, because I feel like they're unrepresented, right? I feel like streetwear people of color are unrepresented in modern day culture nowadays, especially design, especially in fashion. So I'm always there championing them and giving them the flipping hoo-ha, hee-ha, right? That's what I'm doing. And it looks like, unfortunately, one of our soldiers has fallen. Bailey have parted ways with Rhuigi, the designer of Rude, who they appointed only 2 years ago. I think he only had like 2 seasons under the belt. It may not have been 2 years on paper. It may have been just 18 months. I'm not really too sure. But Bally have decided to part ways with the Rude designer and go in separate directions, which essentially means he got fired. So it says here, courtesy of WWE magazine, it says, Bally and Rhuigi Villaseñor, I always get his name wrong, Rhuigi Villaseñor are parting ways in which was characterized as a joint and mutual decision. It's always that in fashion, unless you're really egregious. They always try their best to make sure your exit isn't looked at like a firing, but it is a firing. Villaseñor joined the Swiss brand in January of last year. Holy shit, was the work that bad? The chief executive officer Nicholas Garotto underscored the design's creative contributions as well as his passion, energy and creativity, and helped to catapult Bally back into the spotlight, further rejuvenating the brand's 170 legacy through modern glamorous lens. I wish him all the best for his next chapter of his creative journey. This sounds like when you get those really big rejection letters from jobs. You apply for a job and you send your application off, you're waiting for a good response, and then they send you a whole entire fucking email with 4 paragraphs essentially telling you thank you for contributing, no, thank you for applying, thank you for considering us, but we're gonna go another direction. Thank you but no thanks. That's what it sounds like, isn't it? Right? They're giving him this happy it's not you, it's us fucking handshake which is probably worse. Just make it blunt, make it two lines and keep it moving. Yo, big up high def 10. I appreciate you. Thank you for those $15 super chat, my friend. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. I will actually. As soon as Tiger Thick is available in the UK, I'm definitely copping it, 100%. Maybe when I go to the Brendan Schaub show, actually, I'm going to the gig here in London soon. When that happens, maybe there'll be an opportunity to purchase some. Maybe I'll be able to get some Tiger Thick at the show. Maybe he's gonna smuggle some over in his luggage, and we'll be able to purchase it at an insane markup at the show. Maybe that's a fact. I might have to put my Pooh Shiesty mask on though, instead, in case I get a fucking C clamp, right? In real life, but I may have to try and get some. But yeah, big up you, high def 10. I appreciate the $15. I appreciate you. We continue here. It says here, Bally's design studio will continue to carry the direction of the brand forward until a new creative organization is named. A co-ed fashion show in Milan is planned to present the brand's spring 2024 collection during the 6th Fashion Week in September. So the work was so bad, they're not even willing to put out whatever's left over. They're just parting, and also they're parting ways before naming a successor. So this is definitely a not amicable split, for sure. Villaseñor upped the brand's visibility by bringing Bally back to the runway with the show in September 2022 in Milan, presenting a sensual, bold woman, and followed by a sophomore show in February. He also added his own spin of celebrating the brand's storied curling boot by fusing unexpected Western details with traditional mountaineering motifs. He says, "My experience at Bally has been an incredible honor. I wish the brand nothing but the best of all the future endeavors and look forward to enjoying next chapter." Born in Manila, Venezuela, grew in Southern California, blah, blah, blah. In a previous interview, Grotto told WWE that he realized tapping Universal was a bold choice, but you can't win if you don't do what's expected of you. You have to look at Bally's past and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, one thing that he got from this, which I think is going to be beneficial, he got some fucking sick press shots. There's an interview he did with GQ Style and something else, but for sure, this guy got some amazing press shots from his flipping time and headshots or whatever it may be from his time at Bally. Like, they went crazy in terms of covering him in all the right places and increasing his profile in that regard. So well done to him on that regard. Honestly, he smashed it there. But let's also be accurate and sure. This is definitely a clear example as to why going and flipping, or no, this is why it's a good example of like holding up these fashion institutions or these houses or these brands up onto a pedestal for these streetwear guys is folly. I think a lot of people in streetwear look down on streetwear, especially the guys that start off designing it. They think as if they're better than it, which is crazy, because I think it's the most accessible and most it's the most accessible point of entry for any person to make clothes. And I still think it kind of has a overall wider appeal than high-end fashion, because most people can't afford that shit. But you can essentially provide people on the street with clothing they can actually wear day to day, with a brand that they can actually get behind, with a design that they can actually believe in long term, as opposed to a really massive corporation or brand or a house, like in terms of fashion regarded. And also I think just in general, the sensibilities and the design and the flipping, the demands placed on designers in streetwear and in fashion are very different. And walking, going from running your own thing at Rude, which Rhuigi was doing for a long time, essentially being his own being his own designer, being essentially freelance, doing his own thing, and then essentially having to clock in, clock out a job, and having to kind of work under certain parameters, and having to have a certain vision in mind, and having to compromise. All these things are things that he probably hasn't been doing for a long time, because he's been running Rude successfully for a very, very, very long time. So if that's the case, I'm not surprised that there was some butting of heads happening. But again, I think it's this weird fetishization of fashion in general with these streetwear guys, where they feel like they need the validation of people in Paris or people in Milan or whatever it may be, that they end up going there seeking their validation and end up getting completely shitted on. They end up getting completely shitted on, disregarded, disrespected, and then guess what? They end up having to come right back down to where they started from, the same place that they were kind of dismissing and kind of trying to distance themselves from, because that's the only place that's going to welcome them with open arms. And I think it's kind of sad, to be completely fair. But we also can't deny, apart from all that working conditions type of shit, the work was terrible. Let's not deny, the two shows that he did were fucking garbage, like legitimately garbage. I find myself really struggling to try and give the guy praise and to try and cover them in somewhat of a positive light, but the work wasn't good. So the fact that he took the job was admirable. The fact that he was hired for the role, the fact that the guys over at Bally would be so bold to choose somebody like that to lead their reinvention and to hope that he could zaza vava voom and flipping, bring them back into modernity was amazing. But let's not, cut to the chase here. The work was absolutely terrible. It was kind of mediocre. It kind of flattered to deceive, and it's no surprise in just how long on the work itself that's why it kind of failed. But if you look at the guy's Twitter account and you look at his feed, he's letting off. He's letting people know that this wasn't mutual. He's letting them know that this wasn't mutual. He wasn't happy in the slightest, and he's letting it off. And it also shows that maybe he didn't sign an NDA, which is really interesting. It says here, his latest tweet, be casual, have full control of your action and your destiny. So I think this is a bit of a sub at Bally. There's another tweet here which features a screenshot of LeBron talking about the time that he went to the Heat. I'm not too sure what the meaning around that is. There's another tweet here that says this is more clarity. So this whole mutual consent thing is gone. It's important for the future and the kids that I'm paving way to have a proper roadmap, for them to have a proper roadmap, I guess, that leads them to proper enterprise value. Always focus on what you own and build the world you wish you have. Never compromise your values or culture for anything. I think this is a bit rich because when he got the job, he was flexing as if he finally made it. But I thought he made it anyway by building Rude to be what it was now. The fact that he made it now, recently I saw Rude do a collaboration with Lamborghini. Again, I think all car collab merch is fucking awful, but still the fact that his brand is in a position to do a collab with Lamborghini just shows how much it's kind of grown and how successful and how well established and how well regarded it is. So he's already won in my book by doing that, but that wasn't enough. He needed the validation of fashion. And now finally unfortunately they're flipping, not finally, but unfortunately they fire him. And now suddenly, it's all like, oh, never compromise your vision, create the world that you need, blah, 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 blah. Why was all this talk when they were offering the job? Maybe stick to your guns and just do the thing that you're doing instead of fetishizing and holding up these fashion people as, better than, when essentially they don't understand what you're about. It continues here, more tweets here. Again, this gives you an indication, because again, look for his Twitter as well, because he's very, he's on social a lot, and there's not a lot of promotion of Bally products on his social media. There's a lot of his own shit, but not a lot of it on Bally's. You know what I mean? Even I think the bio's been updated already, hasn't it? Has the bio been updated? Yeah, the bio has already been updated. Founder of Rude, founder of RUH by Zara. So the Bally Association has already gone quickly, sharply. He continues here, says, never compromise your vision or your values, never, ever. This is in May, before the firing has been, May 12th, before the firing has been finalized. I'm assuming it may have happened somewhere around here. You can give them your juice, but never let them take your sauce. So for sure, around this time, something must have happened. Another one here, May 10th. Urgency is really the difference maker on who gets the shit accomplished. What else we got here? We got another one. I gotta get back to the States. So he was already hating it. Maybe he was a bit homesick. Another picture here of okay, this is a thing, I don't know, but yeah, I love the way you make me feel. Maybe this is a Bally one. Yeah, I think this is a Bally image. So there wasn't a lot of Bally promotion on his social media feed, and he was given the feelings that he kind of wasn't vibing or liking it. So we can assume, reading between the lines, the head honchos at Bally were basically trying to give him some notes on what to do in designs. They were maybe giving him some notes on what he should do in terms of color palettes and what he should do in terms of shows. Maybe telling him to tone it down with the blacks, right, or with the hip hops. I don't know what they wanted, right? Something maybe you want to miss, and that's why the flipping collaboration ended. But again, like I said, the work wasn't the greatest, I think, and I think in general, maybe the expectation levels maybe didn't match, and maybe the flipping demands that were placed on him, he probably wasn't that aware of, being out of flipping working under the thumb of a corporation or underneath somebody working on his own for so long. That probably took some getting used to. And again, it's another example as to why overall I think streetwear guys should honor and should put the fact that they have a popping successful brand in streetwear that's selling out, that's doing well, that's got a fan base, is really really something to be kind of heralded and really held up, you know, in its own regard. It's just as good as having a runway show. You know, subscribing to the fucking fashion calendar in the first place is the most anti-punk thing you can do in general. Anyway, it's not really counterculture in the slightest. Kind of acquiescing to them and going to their showrooms and kissing the ring and wanting to get into their fucking magazines and having girls flipping, you know, wear your t-shirts and stand on skateboards and stuff. That's not streetwear. That's fucking lame, in my humble and personal opinion. And obviously he will go on to do amazing things in the future, I'm sure of it, but this for sure wasn't amicable. This for sure wasn't you know, a mutually beneficial decision. It for sure was them butting heads and not being on the same wavelength, and eventually Rhuigi got his wish. He's back in the US now. No more hanging out in Switzerland and wherever else he was. I think it's Switzerland where Bally's headquarters are. None of that association with Hitler as well. That's a good one, right? None of that Hitler SS association, because if you Google Bally and you Google Nazi, it gets a bit freaky out there in the streets. So big up Rhuigi for distancing himself from that group of people. Nobody needs that smoke. Nobody needs that Bally Nazi Hitler smoke, mate. It's not enough, mate. They can't pay you enough to have that association on your jacket. I utterly implore you to leave as soon as possible. Anyway, that has been the WingsOfRedemption Show, episode number 673. This is a quick one I had to do because I'm off to the cinemas actually to go watch Guardians of the Galaxy, which I will be updating and reviewing later on in another episode. So if you want to have my opinion regarding Guardians of the Galaxy, please tune back in later tonight. There will be another stream where I'll be updating and reviewing everything regarding it. So please do that. Big up the chat, big up everybody that's hanging in there. I appreciate every single one of you. It's been a pleasure to have your time and have your company, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Take care. Be well. Peace.